Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's Storytime topic is about a trip that I had, alright? Not a vacation, not a trip to another place, but a trip with a few friends of mine in my friend's basement, if you know what I'm talking about, alright? This story time's about one of the worst acid trips I've ever had in my entire life. Not because of the acid trip itself, but because of the people that I did it with. Not even just the people, okay? Specifically one person, alright? So this story time takes place in 2016. Okay, it all starts off as a normal day. I wake up. I had plans this day to hang out with a few friends of mine. Now, these friends of mine are friends that I've known for a long time. I've known them since middle school. They're good people. The only problem with these friends that I have is they're not good under pressure. Okay, like if a situation presents itself that's, a tense situation or a scary situation, they're not good under pressure. They react badly, they make the wrong decisions, and it sometimes gets them into shit. And this story time's about that. So these friends of mine, 3 of them to be specific, I'm not going to give all of them names because all of them don't matter in this story time. There's just one in specific that needs a name, okay? Let's just call this friend Brian, okay? Now, like I said, I've known Brian since middle school. He's a good dude, and I was going to be hanging out with him on this day with the rest of our friends. So fast forward to me hanging out with them. I go over to Brian's house. We're sitting in Brian's basement, just playing music, just talking to each other. And all of a sudden, Brian's like, yo, shut the music off. So I pause the music on my phone, and he's like, yo, check this out. And he pulls out of his jacket pocket a little baggie with some tabs in it of some acid. And everyone's like, oh shit, what are you going to do with that? He's like, well, what do you think I'm going to do with it? I'm going to take it. I want you guys to take it with me. Now, at this point in my life, I wasn't really on my acid shit. I was kind of just focusing on YouTube and just kind of trying to get through life. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure. And he's like, well, just think about it, man. If you change your mind, you want to do it with us, you're always welcome to. I'm like, all right, man. And I respected that, okay? They weren't trying to peer pressure me or anything. They kind of just left it up to me. So fast forward like 2 hours later, it was time for them to take this acid. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll join in. Now, I probably should have thought a little bit harder about it and probably not done it, but I decided to. Now, this was Brian's first time ever doing acid, okay? It was his first time. He was super nervous. So I thought that it would help him if I joined in. And he was stoked about it. So fast forward, we take the tabs. Fast forward even further, the tabs kick in, okay? Everyone's trip started out fine. Everybody seemed to be having a good time. We're just laughing, talking, listening to music like we were doing before. Only this time there was some LSD in the mix. And for the most part, it wasn't even that bad. Like, I wasn't freaking out or anything. Brian didn't seem to be freaking out. He was a little bit quiet, but he wasn't, freaking out. And the rest of my friends were fine. They were all laughing, having a good time. So I thought to myself, wow, this is great. This is a great change of pace. Usually, if all of us would have done this, we'd just have awful times and something would happen and it would just go super wrong. But it was going good. But then, of course, me thinking that just had to jinx the entire fucking situation. Alright, so we're sitting in a circle in Brian's basement, listening to music, just laughing, talking to each other, and Brian just goes silent for 5 minutes straight. And I look over at Brian, and he's just staring into the ground, just looking at nothing. And I'm like, yo, Brian, you good? And I tap him on the shoulder, and he does not break eye contact with the ground. He just keeps looking at the ground, just staring it down. And I'm like, Brian, are you good, man? And I tap him on the shoulder again, and he just won't look at me. And I'm like, yo, what's going on with Brian? And all my friends are like, yo, Brian, you good, man? What's going on? And finally, he breaks eye contact with the ground, and he looks at me, and he goes, yeah, man, I'm fine. And I'm like, you sure? You were just giving the ground a stare down. It's not a blinking contest, man. The ground can't blink. And he's like, yeah, man, I was just kind of freaking out for a second. I'm fine. So right after he says this, he goes back to staring at the ground. And I'm like, okay, this is a little bit strange, but you know what? He says he's fine. He knows his body. If he was really out of control, he would tell us. That's what I thought. Fast forward 5 minutes later, this motherfucker Brian's still staring at the ground. He's just still giving it a deep stare down. And I'm getting a little bit creeped out at this point. So I'm like, yo, Brian, are you sure you're okay? He's like, Austin, I said I'm fine. I'm like, all right, man, my bad. I just wanted to check in. I want to make sure you're doing okay. He's like, don't worry, man, I'm fine. I'm like, all right. And of course, he goes back to staring at the ground, not saying a word to anybody. And it's so awkward in the room at this point that we're all just kind of silent. We're just kind of sitting there listening to the music in silence. And fast forward another 5 minutes, Brian stands up. He just stands up, and this time he stares at the wall. He stares at the wall for about 5 seconds, and we're just kind of staring at him, wondering what he's about to do. And I shit you not, Brian takes off running full speed at the wall, head first, full speed, running as fast as he can at this wall. And I yell out, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? And before I could finish the word doing, he headbutts the wall and just goes right through it. This man just headbutts the fucking drywall and flies through it. And I'm like, yo, Brian, what the fuck? And he turns around and he looks at us and we're all just in shock. And he starts hysterically laughing. And there's like drywall coming off his head, like powder. And he's just laughing. And he goes, I had to break the tension. And me and all my friends look at each other like, yo, this dude is crazy. So after this, Brian walks over and he sits down next to us. There's still drywall in his hair. And he puts his head in his hands and starts crying. Just hysterically crying. And at this point, we're like, yo, what is happening? So I start trying to comfort him. Like, I put my arm around him. I'm like, yo, Brian, like, what's wrong? What's going on, man? He's like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not having a good time. Like, I thought that would be funny, and now I'm, like, in pain. My head hurts really bad, and I'm, like, seeing things, and the room is moving, and I'm dizzy. And I'm like, Brian, take a few deep breaths, man. Like, you're going to be okay. Like, we're all here for you. And he's just crying with his head in his hands. And all my friends are like, yeah, man, you'll be fine. And then after they say that, one of my friends pulls me aside. He tells me to walk into the other room with him. And we go over to the other room. And he's like, yo, man, like, I think I'm going to bounce. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to bounce? He's like, I think I'm going to walk home. Like, this is just killing my vibe. Like, this is killing the trip. I'm like, homie, it's not about the trip at this point, man. Our friend is in pain. And he's like, yeah, but like, I can't do this, man. This is going to make me have a terrible time. I'm going to have a panic attack. Like, I can't do it. I'm like, all right, man, then bail. So he starts leaving. He gets his jacket. He starts putting it on. And one of our other friends is like, yo, are you leaving? He's like, yeah, man, I'm going to walk over to my house. And he only lived like 2 minutes away. Like, you could just walk there in a few minutes. So yeah, he put his jacket on, said goodbye to us, and then he left. So yeah, one friend in the friend group went home, but I didn't think it was a big deal. I was like, we'll be fine. We'll have a fine night without him. And we continue just kind of sitting there trying to play some music, trying to calm our friend down. And he's not calming down. He keeps crying hysterically. He keeps having a bad trip, a very bad first time, if I do say so. And then our other friend starts having a panic attack, and he wants to go home. But the problem with him is he drove there, so he's not going to drive home on acid. I'm not letting that happen. He tries to grab his keys, and I have to take them from him. I'm like, yo, what do you think you're doing? He's like, bro, I'm having a bad time. I'm not doing good. I need to go home. Like, I just need to go home. I need to calm down. I need to take a shower. I'm like, dude, there's a shower upstairs. Like, go use that shower. You're not driving home. He's like, bro, the panic attack sobered me up. Like, I'm not tripping anymore. I'm like, oh, is that how it works? You can take LSD, and then if you're nervous, it just goes away. He's like, dude, you know what I mean? I'm like, nah, bro, you're not driving home. You're on acid. I'm not letting you drive a car. He's like, dude, I'm fine. And he pushes me. I'm like, bro, are you really about to try and fight me for these keys when you know you shouldn't be driving? And yeah, my own friend gets angry at me and he's pushing me. He's like, come on, like, give me those keys, pussy. Like, he's trying to instigate a fight with me so he can drive home on acid. I'm like, bro, I'm not letting you drive. Like, you were tripping right now. I'm not letting you get in a car. Like, I'll call you a fucking cab if I have to. Like, you're not driving. And finally, after pushing me like 3 times, he stops. And he's like, all right, whatever. And he walks upstairs and he gets in the shower and takes a shower. And at this point, it's just me and Brian. So I sit down with him and I keep trying to calm him down. And eventually he does calm down. And we kind of have a nice, okay rest of the night. The trip was pretty damn bad for him and for me. I can't lie. Like, it was not how I expected the night to go. But yeah, my friend was fine. Brian was fine. He just had some drywall in his hair and a little bit of a headache. Our other friend almost drove home, but luckily I got his keys from him and kept him for the night, so he stayed there with us the whole night. And our other friend got home safely. He just walked, like, literally across the street, basically. And yeah, guys, moral of the story is, just don't repeat any of the actions you heard about in this story time, honestly. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much into the story time. The rest of the night was pretty normal, but definitely not the best night, if I do say so myself. But yeah, guys, I thought the story time was crazy, and I thought you guys would enjoy it. I hope you did. If you did enjoy this story time, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Like, what's up? They leave me out for the dead, and now they know they're fucked. All my texts are unread, that's how I know she's done. My life changed in a flash.